Out of the gates and ready to go. Well, we've got Putin and Trump discussing a massive hockey matchup. We'll discuss whether or not we find it that massive. Plus, UNC about to go on a run, and West Virginia, well, their nightmare continues. All that and more straight ahead here on Hot Mic. Like, comment, and subscribe to the OutKick YouTube channel. Chad, the thing that made the round-robin tournament with U.S., Canada,
the four nations face-off,
is that we were pissed at each other. I don't like the whole Trump-Putin relationship unless we're going to be pissed off at each other. I don't find it that massive of a story right now that the USA and Russia want to play hockey and we're going to shake hands about it.
It's a hell of a point, because what makes the Miracle on Ice such a miraculous moment? It's not just because a bunch of amateurs are playing a bunch of grown men from the Soviet Union.
Right.
It's because America and the USSR were engaged in a Cold War at the time. And it meant so much more than just a hockey match when the U.S. beat the Russians, which eventually we beat the Russians for good by defeating communism.
So this would be NHL players.
And Rocky had his hand in that too a little bit later.
I'm here for it. I mean, just join in on the nation's tournament.
Yeah.
Just add more teams, and there you go. They'll be participating.
Right.
That's how I would do this.
I bet Canada hates Russia more than more than we hate Russia right now.
Will we be booing the anthem? Will Putin be called governor?
Well, what can make things really spicy is get Ukraine involved. Also, I mean,
no, that was a governor.
Yeah, if Trump and Putin are going to, orchestrate everything for this war, and Ukraine's left out.
There you go.
I think Ukraine should also play in this hockey tournament. I mean, just make it the Six Nations face-off and add Russia and Ukraine. They can start in the Eastern section, the Eastern Bloc.
Five nations, one state.
Russia versus Ukraine. Russia versus Ukraine, Hutton. Best of 7 series. Hey, I'd rather them settle it on the ice than settle it on the battlefield. Yeah. Russia versus Ukraine, 7-game series. Winner of that decides the 5th entry into the Four Nations face-off.
I mean,
Sweden and Finland, I don't know what their geopolitical situation is right now with Putin and Russia, but they're going to be involved. Canada and the U.S., we know are at odds, hate each other. I think this has the making. Here's what you do. It came to me, Hutton. 7-game series, Russia versus Ukraine. They advance. 7-game series in Scandinavia, Sweden versus Finland. Winner advances. 7-game series, home and home, Montreal and Toronto to Chicago and Boston. Pick your hockey towns, wherever you want to play it, U.S. versus Canada. And then you have some sort of, 3-way death match between the winners of those 3 series.
If this isn't in like Mighty Ducks, I'm going to be pissed off.
Yeah. Iceland. Very nice.
Yeah, just got to have the rivalry.
It was Mighty Ducks 2 where I realized that Greenland full of ice, Iceland very nice. That's what I learned from geography in that movie.
What do you think, though? Like the whole, we're just going to, let's pick a rival, but then let's pretend that we're nice to them.
I think it's very
it
weird.
Doesn't work for me.
So 2 things are very strange about this story to me. Trying to have a discerning eye about stories I see and read and not just immediately praise them for being great.
Let's praise for being, exactly.
So we're now taking the word of the Kremlin. Once again, we're quoting the Kremlin.
We are.
We're using Google Translate to quote the Kremlin and their account of the conversation between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. And we don't have an American side of that. This in Cold War spy mystery novel movie, this is cardinal sin number 1. You don't take the word of the enemy or the other side when they are producing propaganda the way the Kremlin and state-run media in Russia is producing. So we're going to take that word on this and run with this story. The second part of this is they spent 90 minutes on the phone. Is that right? It was a 90-minute conversation, I think. 90 minutes. You can talk about a lot of things in 90 minutes, but in 90 minutes of world-defining geopolitics, of a ceasefire with this war that's been going on for years now, multiple years, hockey came up?
I guess.
Hockey came up. You can't.
I know, man.
I love sports. I love them like the next guy, but I just want to know the segue that got them through translators for Vladimir Putin to be like, Back on the Four Nations face-off that I watched
headline.
In the middle of the night in Moscow, I really like this concept and would love to entertain a series with the United States.
2 hours before we went live yesterday, U.S. President Trump agrees to Russian President Putin's proposal to organize hockey games between Russian and U.S. players in NHL and KHL. That was a headline. Oh, man.
All right.
No, I mean, honestly, if it's just going to be a friendly, I'm not watching it.
Yeah, if there's going to be some serious animosity,
we're
then
going to
we'll
fight.
watch.
Then let's see a fight. These guys don't want to fight.
It's look, I learned a lot about geopolitics from many movies of the 80s. And in Rocky IV, Rocky plainly states, two guys beating the hell out of each other in this ring are better than many millions on a battlefield somewhere battling it out. And we got to live out that battle by watching Rocky battle Ivan Drago. If we're going to carry that same spirit and vigor into a Russia versus United States hockey fight that stops with the gloves being dropped and both sides fighting, and that prevents world war, or that prevents war between our countries, or stops people from dying between Ukraine and Russia in this other war, I'm all for it. But as Hutton said, and I think you said it well, if it's going to be some friendly, soccer match type thing where it's going to be just,
we're not going to fight. We're not going to boo each other.
Everyone is going to be so
they'll walk out together.
So glowing about the other country and, oh, no, you're great. No, you are. No, you're great.
No,
this and that. No.
Not here for that.
What happens if you're an American and you boo the Russian national anthem in Russia if you make that trip and watch?
You're escorted out of the building.
Yeah. I don't think you're treated the same way you were if you're a Canadian booing the national anthem.
No, not at all. The entire game will be translated via Google Translate.
Yes.
That's another part of the proposal.
Loser has to go live in Siberia for a year. Those are the types of stakes I want to see.
Yeah, just join in on what we just saw. How about that? Just join in. Bring anybody else you want.
I want to know the exact point. I'd love to hear the entire conversation, to know the exact point when they got away from. So what to do about this ongoing war and whether or not you're going to take other countries after we negotiate to give you Ukraine, or at least part of it, a big part of it, to, hey, by the way, back to the hockey match. Can we get the KHL players against the NHL players?
You can have Crosby, or you can bring in whoever you want, and we can have NHL players, and then we'll bring in Alexander Radulov.
Yeah. Is he still around?
I guess.
Still playing?
The famous KHL player.
I'd say Alexander Radulov's got to be late 30s by now.
At least.
Yeah. Pushing 40.
Mid-30s, yeah, probably.
Pushing 40.
You mentioned Rocky. Are we seeing the college basketball version of Rocky right now? Rising up, North Carolina, Tobacco Road, Tar Heels. They get it done. I had a feeling, Chad. I had a feeling that this was going to be a time where Carolina's going to win, and all of a sudden it was going to be, see, told you so. And last night, it was a massacre. It was a beatdown. Wasn't even worth watching. It was that lopsided.
This is where
this team that they just boat raced, San Diego State, they beat Houston. They are one of Houston's 4 losses.
Yeah.
And we saw that game.
Must have been a real bad night for Houston. Must have had a few guys out with COVID
on
that night or something. Yeah, must have had some injuries. They were bad. Could have just been a really bad performance from San Diego State too. And it was a really great performance from North Carolina also last night. This is where reverse psychology usually works better, right? Because I was making psychology the thing. I've watched North Carolina play, and they have not been good all year long. They lack grit. They don't play smart. They're going to get beat because I thought that the other team on the other side was going to play competently to where they could actually beat them in a game. That was not the case. This thing was 33-13, and I turned it off at that point. And San Diego State had no semblance of an offense this game. Congratulations, North Carolina. They played great. They look like a very talented team that they are. They've been a talented team all year. But talent in history and reputation, that's not voting criteria for an NCAA selection committee to get into the tournament. And this is what really annoys me about this whole process and what I think about went on here. And we said this a month ago on the show that people are going to use whatever happens this tournament to either justify their position throughout the season on what they believe, or to talk trash about something because they believe this now confirms what they believe throughout the season. Good example is SEC is either the greatest thing ever or they're overrated. Depending on what happens this first weekend, there's going to be a lot of hot takes on either side of that. as to what's going on. Now, back to this North Carolina thing. Hutton, this is my nightmare that's taking place right before our eyes when I watch this game. We all saw it. They beat the ever-loving hell out of San Diego State. I saw a team last night that's going to go beat Ole Miss in the next game, and I think Ole Miss is very good. That's very disturbing to me because I, Chad Withrow, have Ole Miss in my Elite Eight taking on Auburn. But I saw it. I saw the death of Ole Miss before my eyes, watching North Carolina figure it out just in time in a moment that they should not have been given to figure it out. That's what bothers me about this whole thing. They run one shining moment at the end of the tournament, right? And they have all these different feel-good stories, right? When I think of a feel-good stories of a high major team, it's that team that maybe didn't connect all year, but gets hot and goes on a run and wins their conference tournament. And then they go into the big dance and they get hot there and they continue to play well and to win. I think about a lot of different examples. One would have been had Jalen Withers not stepped in the lane on his teammate's free throw, and North Carolina hits that free throw, knocks off Duke, and goes on to beat Louisville and gets the auto bid into the tournament. Then they get an 11 seed that way, and they go on a run. Cool. Put them in one shining moment. I wouldn't mind seeing that. This North Carolina team, I don't want to hear about one shining moment. I also don't want to hear from North Carolina fans during their win last night. Here are some of the best excerpts of what I received on X last night from North Carolina fans. Okay. This is from John Smitherman. You guys look ridiculous now. Go ahead and tell me how many Final Fours WVU and Boise have been to combined. Carolina has 21. They have a long tournament resume, and people want to watch them. Pick something else to cry about. Hutton, this guy is making our point for us on North Carolina.
Real photo.
He's saying the reason they got in. I do appreciate the real photo.
At real photo.
Good job, John. Is that his wife or child with him? I can't tell. Either way, thanks for using your real photo. They're going with this guy. I'll have to look and zoom in and see. They're going with what we all think is going on, right? They're looking at reputation of the team, and he's arguing that their reputation should get them in. Last I checked, there's no criteria that says the amount of Final Fours your program has been to factors in to this year's team that hasn't been to a Final Four.
Damn it, where's Indiana?
And what they're going to do. That's right. Indiana should be in there. That's the case. Here are some other responses I got on X. This is from Alex Waycaster. Also a real photo. Yeah. How about this guy? I like it. 7 of those 12 games. This is funny about the 1-12 record, okay, he's getting into for North Carolina.
Yes.
7 of those 12 games were against 1 and 2 seeds, and all of them but one were away from home. You already knew that, though. Maybe next season we can get some quad 1 games at powerhouses, San Diego State, Boise State, Penn State, and Arizona State. Not all Q1s are the same. They're not all the same. But when you play 13 of them and win one of them, it's tough to go with 7 out of the 12. What about the other 5? What about the other 5 opportunities? Alex Waycaster, if you win 2 or 3 of those, then you're right there in the mix with West Virginia and Xavier and everyone else that's in there or not in there in the tournament. You won one of them. One of them. So that argument goes out the window. Next response on X comes back from John Smitherman. He's back for more, Hutton. It's never going to be a perfect kind of like. It's never going to be perfect. Kind of like Bama always seems to get the benefit of the doubt in football. You're also assuming the valuation on Mountain West schools is completely accurate when they rarely have any tourney success. Sorry, West Virginia didn't get their participation trophy. West Virginia's participation trophy. Okay, it is your school, sir, that's getting a participation trophy because of past accomplishments of great players and great men in that program like Michael Jordan and Rasheed Wallace and other North Carolina greats, Tyler Hansbrough and Sean May. You are living off the backs of them. That is your participation trophy. West Virginia got nothing but an NIT invite and their coach leaving them for Indiana. another storied program like yours, John. Next response on X. This is from Corey Morris. Hutton, I think that's a very dark shaded actual photo, personal photo.
Corey Fly.
Look good being up 40 against a tournament team last night. You with others need to try to understand all quad 1 games are not equal. This is a very common refrain from the North Carolina fan. You hate too much for that, though. It's all hate over here. I'm wearing Carolina blue today, all right? Look, I'm there to celebrate how great they look right now. I'm sure it was awesome being up 40 against a tournament team in Dayton in the first four. Oh, my, how different we view tourney teams now at North Carolina. San Diego State in the first four would not have been viewed as a tourney team by North Carolina fans most every other year, but congrats on beating their ass last night. You certainly did that. I think we may have one more. Oh, yes. This is from Rubby, who posted in and says,
Roboto B.
So another thing came up on was, got to look at their last 10. 8-2. 8-2 in their last 10, which, by the way, is no longer something the committee looks at. They took that out either this year or the year before. They don't look at last 10. But they went 8-2 in their last 10. Robbie says, yeah, real mystery why they went 8-2 in that stretch. Here's who they beat in that stretch. Syracuse, bad. NC State, got their coach fired. Virginia, didn't even have a coach. Florida State, got their coach retired. Miami, got their coach retired. Virginia Tech, awful. Duke, good, got their ass kicked. Notre Dame, terrible, won that game. Wake Forest, okay, won by 9 points on a neutral site. Pretty good win for North Carolina. And then the chance against Duke in the ACC tournament that they did not capitalize on, and that leads to the 8-2 record. All of this to say, Hutton, it's been fun going back and forth with North Carolina fans, but man, oh man, my worst nightmare is coming true that I know now, having seen this team play last night, I've completely changed course. They're going to get hot at the right time. They're about to beat Ole Miss and go on a run to the Sweet 16. They're going from the first four, not to the Final Four, but to the Sweet 16. Now, I'd love to talk to Bubba Cunningham about this. On this show, we'd love to talk to Bubba Cunningham about it. North Carolina AD, we would like to ask him if he is going to accept what the West Virginia governor wants him to do and return his bonus money for making this tournament. But our Adam Brown reached out to North Carolina, and we got this in response from UNC. Hi, Adam. Thanks for reached out. Bubba is not available for an interview. Have a great day. Robbie with an I. Robbie Pickerel from North Carolina. Hutton, we won't get a chance to talk to Bubba Cunningham. He has denied our request for an interview, and that makes me sad.
Probably busy.
That makes me sad.
As the chair of the selection committee, he's got to be present at certain games. So he's flying all over the place.
Oh, he was sitting there right there last night with Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC.
Yeah.
Staying strong, united front.
They beat their ass.
They did.
Good for them.
I thought San Diego State was built on toughness as a program. And I was really sold out with the amount of wide open shots. R.J. Davis is still hitting threes. I think he was 6 for 6.
Yeah, he set a postseason record for UNC.
And most of those were uncontested.
Yes. They shot, nearly 65%, I believe, in the first half?
The San Diego State of my youth, the Aztecs of my youth, would put up a better fight than that defensively.
They were up 40 at one point.
It was real bad. So, again, it was 33-13. I turned it off.
Yeah, I mean, we can look up the ratings while we're in here and see what the ratings were last night, because everyone's like, oh, UNC is going to bring a ratings boost. Don't know if that happened. Not with that score. This is also the annual trek to find out where True TV is. With all the different services.
Every year. True TV is way down on YouTube TV. You get to curate where your channels are.
Yes.
Order them how you want. Yep. And I feel like True TV is like 8th from the bottom. If I scrolled all the way down my YouTube TV channels, pretty far down there.
Luckily, you got the roll and I just hit live.
I just go to home and I have the multi-view that queues up for me, and it's always in that.
I love that feature.
Yes.
Love that feature. So, Carolina, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to play hard. I know that.
Yeah.
But Carolina's been starting fast last night, and they haven't been doing that. So, if they get the hot start like they did last night, sure, I'm on board with them making the run as far as they're going. What if
I've got Ole Miss in the Elite Eight. I'm not changing my bracket or anything like that. I've still got Ole Miss going to the Elite Eight. It's just I got a glimpse of what could happen if North Carolina, with that talent, puts it together for 2 weeks. And that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
If they can put it together that level for a couple of weeks, they're going to give everybody problems.
The one-shotty moment.
But my issue is they did nothing throughout the year to earn the right to flex their talent in this moment.
So everyone keeps, even those that are defending UNC, bring up quad one. Why? The committee's saying it didn't matter. You have to go stop talking about quad one. Quad one did not play a factor in why they were in the tournament. If it did, they wouldn't be in the tournament. So the whole like, oh, but look who we played. It didn't matter. It didn't matter your quad one record. So why have to? You don't have to defend it. Go off your net and all these other things that Carolina had a better advantage against. That's my thing. Is like this is where everyone becomes a bracketologist and everyone thinks they know these different formulas when I don't know what the hell they look at in that room year to year. I don't know what they value over other valuations. And so quad one, great. Tell me something else. Because they took quad one and said, yeah, we'll overlook this for this. That was the argument. So the quad one versus quad one did not play a factor. But so the argument for Carolina does not need to be look at our record against quad one and who we play. That just doesn't fit.
Yeah, and they got the same amount of teams. ACC and Mountain West got the same amount of teams in, right? 4 apiece for both those conferences. Yeah. So what kills me for North Carolina is that every year we get at least 1 or 2 mid-major teams that scheduled as hard as they could in the non-conference and won a couple of them, maybe 2 or 3.
Because the conference stood out.
Because they know that once they get to conference, their net is going to take a hit. And their strength of schedule is going to take a hit in conference, even if they dominate their conference. North Carolina didn't dominate the ACC, a bad ACC. They had a good record in the ACC. It was not a bad record at all, but it was Mountain West equivalent of what they did in the ACC, so not all that impressive this year. But they got the boost because they played so many tough non-conference teams, but they beat one of them, and it was UCLA, who's a 7 seed on a neutral court. I don't like the inconsistency of it, but I mean, yeah, you're right. There's inconsistencies every year.
Every year.
1 year the conference tournaments matter, the next year it doesn't.
Right.
3 years it doesn't matter, then 1 year it does.
And then they implement these different things like wins against the bubble or whatever, however they're phrasing it. Yeah, I mean, it's just who knows these different formulas and how they lay it out. But it's quad one is what we can all understand. You go much deeper than that, and there's all this other information, and all of a sudden everyone's like, you know what, I've been following this for 5 months, and let me tell you something.
Do you think, how many of the guys...
Let me do the formulas for you.
Let me ask you that. I've always thought about this. Like Joe Lunardi, Jerry Palm, like guys who really, that you just know them for being bracketologists year-round.
Right, yeah.
How many good sources do they have in that committee or with the NCAA selection committee? Because I see how close those guys get, and I know that like anyone could follow the math,
sure, and
probably get pretty close. You know, a guy that I work with here is Willie Donick, locally would do it every year. He would get within 1 or 2 teams, you know, or 2 or 3 most years. That would be a bad year, getting 2 or 3 teams off, but for him. And he's doing it on his own, following the math and everything. So it's not impossible, but I do wonder how many people on the committee they talk to. It's like, hey, I'm going to come out with my new report. What do you think about this team versus this team? You know, what's the thought on that?
They clearly
to get some sort of inside info.
They clearly do, just based on the news that popped out, was it Saturday morning, when you said that Tennessee, no matter what happened, there'd be a 2 seed.
I think that he talked to someone
from in the room, right?
They said, no, now tomorrow's a 1 seed play-in game.
It's got to be.
I think so.
But then it changes.
Yeah.
Because, it's fluid.
I also think that, and look, it's a tough job because he's got to know every game that's going on and every possible outcome and everything else. And I'm sure that, you know, he sees the SEC is a good example. Like, okay, Auburn's a 5-point favorite against Tennessee. I'm going to assume Auburn's going to win that game, is what he's thinking. So Tennessee's a 2 seed. So in his mind, he's like, don't worry, Vols fans, you're not falling off the 2 line, even if you lose. And then everybody else reads that as, how in the world would Tennessee not be a 1 if they win the next 2 games, right? But he's just already assuming, well, Tennessee's going to lose, and it'll be Auburn and Florida, and then Florida would be a 1 seed in that respect.
Maybe it's better off that West Virginia didn't get in. Then go ahead and get that coaching search underway.
Yeah, now's the time.
Darren DeVries, he's the new head coach at Indiana. Maybe like while Governor Patrick Morrissey was on with us yesterday, the deal was being signed, being finalized, because it's literally just minutes after we were off air, Indiana had their new coach, the West Virginia head coach now, IU. So,
do you think that he
quite the bumming week?
Think he was pumping up the women's team in the tournament because he knew the men's team was losing their coach at that time when he was on with us yesterday. Darian DeVries now.
Maybe I will go to Chapel Hill.
The clip is going everywhere of him taking the job at West Virginia and saying, I wouldn't have left Drake had I not planned on coming here for many years and setting up a program, which, I mean, come on. Every coach takes a job that's asked about it. We'll say that. I wouldn't have left the place that I left because I love that place without the plan that I'm going to be here for a long time. Well, plans change. Indiana job comes open. You're a Midwest guy. You want to get to the Big Ten. You go to Indiana. I'm not too mad about it for Darian DeVries. This, to me, is a job you take if you're at West Virginia. All due respect to Jerry West in West Virginia and Kevin Pittsnoggle, all the West Virginia greats, but Indiana's a better job.
Why? How many jobs are out there where you wouldn't want Indiana? You know what I mean? Like,
I think Indiana right now, Hutton, is even more appealing because you could be a savior there. It's not like you're inheriting a good program.
Think about what the football team did.
They've missed the last two NCAA tournaments. You know, they haven't been to a Final Four since 2002 when Mike Davis was their coach. They've had some rough years.
I think, I know.
Tom Crean had a good run for a while, and they've had some rough years since.
I think the football situation helps them.
Yeah.
Helps the coach come in because you're going to get everybody on board with you with relative success. You got to get the students to like you. Dockage has harped on this. The student body doesn't like this team. I mean, it's crazy.
I don't blame them.
In terms of like reclamation projects, though, let's go. That IU would be at the top of that list for that.
Yeah, that's why I think it's even more desirable right now is that today's college basketball, you can turn it around so quickly with a couple of transfers and one big-time recruit. So we saw it a ton this year. Missouri went from no wins in the SEC to a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament in 1 year. Vanderbilt went from barely Division I, quite frankly, under Jerry Stackhouse. Haven't been to a tournament since 2017 under Bryce Drew, who's taken Grand Canyon to the tournament every year now. And 1 year under Mark Byington. They're a really good team and a 10 seed in the tournament. It can change quickly for you. Darian DeVries knows that. And yes, he will be a Bloomington hero if he comes in there and gets this team to the tournament next year, which he will. West Virginia should have been the tournament at year one when he was there this year. He's going to get Indiana there, I believe. And people are going to love him for it.
Hit on North Carolina. So Wetzel, Dan Wetzel with the column at ESPN. In the NIL era, the great hoops coaches still finding a way. They have a bigger voice. We're all listening to them now, that's for sure. And a bigger voice in March in particular. A lot of the great hoops coaches, though, are retiring. You know, we're seeing them on the TV screen. We're not seeing them on the court.
Yeah.
That's the other part of it. They're retiring because of NIL. And we're seeing that in midseason this year with Miami. But Izzo's the one to point out.
It's a really good piece from Dan Wetzel, and there's some good quotes from Tom Izzo in it.
Rick Barnes.
Mike Krzyzewski, to me, is the example. Like, it felt like, he was going to be out no matter what, at some point. But, maybe he saw what was coming and didn't love it and, got out a little bit earlier. That's the truly great coach that I imagine when I'm thinking about these guys. But 5 of the 8 coaches that got a 1 or 2 seed in the NCAA tournament are 65 or older. Bruce Pearl, Rick Pitino, Tom Izzo, Rick Barnes, Kelvin Sampson. 5 of the 8. This is supposedly a young man's game. Now, Todd Golden's in there as number 1 seed. Very young guy. There's some great young coaches that are a 1 or a 2 seed also in this tournament. John Shire is another one at Duke who replaced Mike Krzyzewski. But you can teach an old dog new tricks if they're about the right things, and those right things still resonate with young athletes. And that's the case. Wetzel brings up a great example, and I can think about Tennessee being an example of this. There are still guys who are really good basketball players that maybe have pro NBA potential that still want to be a part of a successful team and put team above self and go and win a bunch of games and be relevant. And now you can take advantage of those guys and become that program that is the perfect spot for them to leave where they became an overachiever. They were overlooked in recruiting. They weren't great players. They were passed up by the big boys. They can become great players at Northern Colorado, like a Dalton Connect, or at North Florida, like Chaz Lanier, who's right down the road from Knoxville at Innsworth School in Nashville. And then they can transfer their final year and go and play for a Hall of Famer and Rick Barnes and go be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. And that's what Dan Wetzel points to. There are still guys that want to do that. And these guys, these coaching legends who have been great recruiters their entire career and know how to run a program, can still run it within the parameters they want to run it. But they appeal to some of these guys who are also looking for some money. And it's in NIL, right? And a chance to transfer late in their career.
I think the trick is being able to adapt. Like far too often, I'm a creature of habit too. I mean, you want to get into your lane and you want to stay with what's working.
Yes.
And, Saban did this very well. He would complain about the style of offense that college football was gravitating into. But then eventually he was recruiting to that while he was bitching and moaning about it. And we saw Heisman winner after Heisman winner there. So, the coaches adapt, and those that adapt well, the legends that do they're not retiring, they're winning right now. And he points some of these out. He mentions Rick Barnes, he mentions Rick Pitino, Kelvin Sampson, Bruce Pearl at 65. I don't think of Bruce Pearl at 65.
I don't either. I was shocked to see he's in the 65 and up club.
Yeah, so when you think about that,
I mean, he's still very active on that sideline.
Yeah.
He does not look like a 65-year-old man when he's screaming at people.
It doesn't look like a 65-year-old that sweats that much. He's a sweater.
Also, when he says that his players aren't pussies.
Yeah,
he doesn't sound like a 65-year-old
Don't be a pussy.
man. Yeah,
that's right.
On ESPN, just came out and said
good. Good, but I agree with him.
Yeah, and they're not. I would say that about Auburn.
Nope.
His teams are not that.
But he's adapting.
Yeah.
So, but I look at it, Chad, and I think, okay, who hasn't adapted? And chances are, those who haven't, I mean, they're not. They're
Jim
not
Larrañaga.
They're out. They're stepping down because they. It's not that it's too hard.
Tony Bennett.
It's just you have no other alternative.
Yeah, Tony Bennett, who's nowhere near 65, retires at Virginia because he hates the way college basketball is played now.
Yeah, that's not us saying they could not adapt.
No,
they just chose not to.
Right.
They didn't want to.
Yeah, I think Tony Bennett could have continued winning at Virginia, and they could have come up with NIL money to pay for transfers that fit his system, but he just didn't want to deal with it.
And maybe it's not out of how difficult it is; it's just how time-consuming and just tiring. Yeah, it is everything. It's everything. So yeah, good piece by Wetzel. He
always does a good job
adapting.
That's a nice get, by the way, for ESPN. I think it's one of his first columns.
Is it
since going to ESPN?
Yeah, well done. Scott Cross, he's a head coach who's adapting, but he's also old school.
For a town of 15,000 when school's not in town, so you can imagine you got one Waffle House per 5,000 people, so probably most per capita anywhere in the country. But started off the first two recruits I brought on campus. We're driving down the main street. I point out Waffle House, ask them if they want to eat there for breakfast, and they were like, "Waffle House? Hell no, I don't want to go to Waffle House." I'm like, "Okay, my bad. We'll try and eat somewhere else." Long story short, we signed neither one of those guys. Then we brought a guy named Nick Stampley, who's an OKG, our kind of guy. He was our third recruit to visit. We're driving by. We don't even say anything about Waffle House. He sees, he's like, "Oh, coach, y'all got a Waffle House here. Can we go there tomorrow?" He was our first signee. He was one of the toughest guys we've ever coached. And from that point forward, we just kind of offhand ask him, "Do you like Waffle House?" If the answer is yes, it's like we sign them. If it's no, we never get them. So I told my staff, I was like, "Hey, y'all can save a lot of time and money. First phone conversation, in passing, ask them, do they like Waffle House or not?"
Smothered, covered, diced.
Chunked.
That's Troy. Chunked.
Smothered onions, covered his cheese, chunked his ham, diced his tomatoes.
There's a few others.
Are we leaving anything out?
Oh, yes, we are.
Peppered? Can you put peppers in them? Country is gravy. I didn't know that one. You could say country on your hash browns as gravy. Here's what I took from that message. Kentucky better watch out. I've drastically undervalued Troy's value in this bracket based on this analysis that their team loves Waffle House.
Chunked, diced, peppered, capped, topped, and
yes.
Country, and scattered smoke.
Capped is chili?
Capped is chili.
Yeah. Damn, I want some hash browns now.
No, sorry. Capped is with grilled button mushrooms.
Oh,
chili is topped.
Topped. Thank you. Topped. That's the one I was missing.
Country is sausage gravy. That sounds wonderful, actually.
So, Hutton, my order for hash browns at Waffle House was always smothered, covered, chunked. I got the bits of ham, the cheese on it, and the onions.
Not scattered? You didn't want the crispy?
I usually say, yeah, no, scattered too.
Crispy.
Scattered, smothered, covered, chunked would be my
A little
order.
crunch to it.
Yeah. I really want Waffle House now.
You may get a little Uber Eats going?
We probably should. If he could be here by the end of the show, we could just can we like a Lady and the Tramp, one order of hash browns in the middle of us?
If they'll deliver for
Meet
us.
in the middle with some potato straws.
You want to get one of everything? We're going to order scattered, smothered, covered, chunked, diced, peppered, capped, topped, and country.
I would love to see, Hutton, what that looks like. Because I've never seen someone get everything on it.
Andy Reid knows what it looks like. There's his play sheet.
Yeah. He knows about the country option, I can tell you that.
Yes, he does.
When I see Andy Reid, I see a man who loves gravy. That's what I know about him. He gets gravy on everything.
Yeah, he would go to Troy, is what I hear.
I love Waffle House. No one else in my family ever wants to go there, so I applaud Coach Cross for his love of Waffle House and his analysis and the way he evaluates his players that he's recruiting.
How many of the college football players that are going to be in on the video game would like Waffle House? I don't know. I'd say a good portion of them.
I'd say pretty much all of them from the South.
They cannot pay for their own. They're
Yeah.
going to be doubling instead of $600 last year. The opt-in NIL offer, you're getting $1,500 this year. That number's only going to go up.
Yeah.
Only going to go up. And
That's good news for the sales of the video game the first year. Is what
Yes.
I'm seeing.
Oh yeah,
It did well.
and the star power. Think about the numbers, the names who are coming back.
Yeah.
You know, to from the quarterback crop. Also, the coaches covers leaked. And this at first there was like, there's no way this is real. No, this is real. You've got the coaches and the players involved for the cover of College Football 26. A little dark.
This is a terrible photo shoot. I mean, who the hell took this photo?
It looks like my high school yearbook photo.
Did they use a Corey who works for us took better photos
Someone from Waffle
than
House
this
actually
without
did
any
this.
lighting or anything else? The man was a genius with the camera.
The photographer cooked at Waffle House that
Did
morning.
Kirby Smart's GA take this photo on his iPhone 9? It's awful. This is the worst photo in history. For a cover of a EA Sports college football?
You start pay. Hey, this is what happens. You start paying $1,500 a
I just
player.
love how clearly they were just all having to be in one place and they look really unhappy to be there. Yeah, this is bad. That does look like it's fake.
It does.
That looks terrible.
You know what? Props to Waffle House. Right now, I cannot have Waffle House delivered. That's how it should be in America. Waffle House should not be deliverable.
You got to go to a Waffle House to enjoy it.
Yes, I can get IHOP, but no.
No, we're not doing IHOP.
No, screw IHOP.
Yeah, forget IHOP.
No.
You know what I want? A place that demands we go in for the ambiance.
Well, I don't know if they demand. They just don't allow Uber Eats.
Yeah. Sir, you can't eat this unless you can also play Travis Tritt on our jukebox. That's the only way we're going to do it.
If you don't have Earl Thomas Conley,
Yeah.
then we're not coming.
If you don't have at least 4 selections from Randy Travis, then you're not a Waffle House. What was your? Did you have a Waffle House jukebox go-to when you went late at night?
Garth Brooks, man.
Yeah, mine was always "Carrying Your Love with Me" by George Strait, because usually it was a 3 a.m. house call at Waffle House when we got in there. And I'm trying to think if there was one other. I remember I had a buddy who always played the same one, and now I can't remember what it was. But "Carrying Your Love with Me," George Strait would be my first pick.
Garth Brooks, Rodeo probably would be one for me. A few others.
Rodeo.
Always avoid the dance though. Too slow.
Yeah.
Too slow for Waffle House.
It's also, hot take coming in, not a great song. That's just not a song when I think of Garth Brooks that I like. The dance is way down the list for me of Garth Brooks choices.